I realize that the advice that I'm going to give today is counter to a lot of the other getting started with homeschooling advice that you may have found out there. And you know what? I'm okay with that because I happen to think this is really good advice. I'll let you decide for yourself. Hi, everyone. I'm Pam Barnhill, and I have helped thousands of homeschoolers create doable systems, beat burnout, and bring more joy to their homeschool days. I've also been homeschooling for 13 years myself, and I have graduated my first homeschooler. So welcome, welcome. Yes, we have been riding high from that recent graduation, but today I want to talk about getting started with homeschooling, and very specifically, I want to talk about 5 things that you don't need to do when you get started with homeschooling, because I know out there right now are all of these getting started with homeschooling resources and videos about all of these things that you need to be doing. And I think that some of them are a little bit overkill. So bear with me for just a little bit and hear me out on this one. So the very first thing that I don't think you need to do when you are getting started with homeschooling is I don't think you need to choose your homeschool method. So if you're coming from the public school system or even from the private school system, you may not realize that there are actually a number of different methods of education out there. And homeschoolers have long embraced diving into and exploring these methods of education and using them in their homeschool. And quite honestly, they are very good things. So you have methods like Charlotte Mason and Montessori and the classical method or unit study. You have some people who even do school at home, and that's what homeschoolers call it. All of these methods are good methods, and you're going to have some people who prefer one over the other, and you're going to have people who ask you to declare your method of homeschooling. And you don't need to do that from the very beginning, but you simply just start homeschooling. You just start homeschooling with what you know, and then as you become more educated about the different methods, different pieces are going to resonate with you, and over the years you can choose which one you would like to study more about and learn more about and follow. They're fabulous things. They really are, learning about all of the different ways people have been educated throughout the history of the world, because it really does shift your paradigm about what education and learning are about, but it's not something you have to have figured out on day one. The second thing you don't need to do if you're just getting started homeschooling is buy expensive curriculum. You really, really don't need to do that. There are actually a couple of options. If you have kids who are 8th grade and younger, you can actually find most of what you need on Amazon or any bookstore. Like if you don't prefer to shop at Amazon, go to your local bookstore or go to any other online bookseller. Go to something like christianbooks.com. That's a great one. Rainbow Resources is another great one. And just find yourself a 6th grade math workbook or a 1st grade reading book. Now, I have lots of homeschool curriculum that I've used through the years that I absolutely love, but this should not be a real stress-inducing thing for you. Find yourself a 5th grade history workbook or something like that, and just for the beginning, start out with that. And just get started, and don't feel like you've got to make these decisions that are going to cost you $600 or $700 for the year when you don't know what it is you're doing. And you know what? You may use that workbook for 4 months or for 6 months. Then you may feel confident enough that you've gotten your feet under you, you know what your days look like, and then you can make a choice. And then there's nothing that says after 4 or 6 months you can't switch to something else. So don't feel like you've got to make a huge investment without having a lot of information. Give yourself time. Your kids are going to be fine. A library card and a few workbooks is a wonderful, wonderful way to homeschool. Okay, the third thing you don't need to do if you are just getting started with homeschooling is you don't need to set up a dedicated homeschooling space. Now, I realize for some of you, you might be like me, this may make you happy, this may be how you want to spend some of your time. Go ahead, but don't feel like it's a requirement to do that, because I have to tell you, if I had it to all do over again, I would have a great big closet to store all the homeschooling stuff in. But we homeschool at the dining room table. We homeschool at the, on the couch in the living room. My kids homeschool sitting at the bar in the kitchen. They homeschool at the table in the sunroom. We just homeschool everywhere. And our homeschooling room is just a big glorified storage closet for all the stuff. My husband and I are actually talking about, how can we make this a better space for the whole family to use now? We've only got 2 kids. We're just not going to use it for homeschooling. So I don't want you to feel like you need to prepare this perfect space before you get started homeschooling. And please, 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 please do not get little desks for your children to sit at all day, every day, because number one, they're not going to want to do that, and they're going to want to be all over the place. And if you try to force them, that's what we're trying to get away from by having our kids come home. We're trying to give them the freedom to move their bodies, to sit next to you on the couch, to gather around a table together, and not to sit at separate little individual desks all day long. Now, you can have some places for them to work, but buying everybody their own individual little desk, totally not necessary. The fourth thing that you do not want to do when you are just getting started homeschooling is go and follow every single homeschooler you can find on Instagram. And you also don't want to go to Pinterest and pin all of the homeschooling things, because what that's going to do is that is going to have you compare yourself to a homeschooler who's been homeschooling for 5, 7, 10 years. And so you want to avoid comparing yourself with a lot of those kinds of homeschoolers, because the beginning of your homeschool journey is going to look very different than my homeschool journey, somebody who's been doing this for a number of years. And I know my kids are older now. The beginning of your homeschool journey with elementary kids is even going to look different than what mine looked like 4 years in with elementary kids, because it's just a totally different thing. And this is like any learning experiment that you go on. The beginning looks very different from the middle, which looks very different from the end. So you don't want to find yourself comparing constantly and then feeling negative about this. So find just a couple, 2, maybe 3 homeschooling voices that you would like to follow, somebody that resonates with you. I would like to suggest me, but I may not resonate with everybody, right? And so it's totally okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings to find somebody you resonate with and follow those voices, 2 or 3, and have that be the extent. So don't go off and follow every single homeschooler that you happen to come across on Instagram. And then finally, the 5th thing that you don't need to do when you are just getting started homeschooling is you don't need to know what the end result is going to be. You don't need to know what it's going to look like later. It's okay to just get started and realize and be okay with the fact that things are going to change down the road, that your homeschool is going to look very different 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Things that you use now, things that you try now, you'll soon realize that maybe they're not such a great fit for your family. And that's completely okay. Or, oh my goodness, I can't believe we ever tried to do that. And that's okay. It's going to look very different. You don't have to have the whole thing mapped out or planned out from the very beginning. Homeschooling is a journey, and so you just want to get up and embrace each day that comes along, and remember that the most important thing is to enjoy the time with your children, to build relationships with them, and to help them become lifelong learners. Okay, so 5 things that you don't have to worry about when you get started homeschooling. And I hope that this was just a breath of fresh air for you and helped you to feel so much better about beginning your homeschool journey. We have totally got you on this. We have a community at community.pambarnhill.com. So many wonderful homeschoolers over there. You can come over there and find us. And then we also have a wonderful course that will help you get started. That's at pambarnhill.com/autopilot. And we are going to help you start by crafting a homeschool vision, setting some goals for you and your kids, and then creating a flexible plan for your homeschool year, using some of those easy resources that I talked about, and help you just get started. Have a great day.